Have you ever thought about buying something, whether it's a coaching program, whether it's an investment property, whether it's an experience for your life, but you've gotten so close, but almost hit that buy button, but then you stopped yourself because you're like, is this going to be worth it? Is this going to work out? You're not alone. You're going to love this episode. Welcome to the Money Fit MD podcast/show. This is Dr. Latifat, Money Fit MD. I am excited for the episode that we're about to get today. And just to give you a little intro about what we're going to talk about, listen, you're going to love this episode if this is you. Have you ever thought about buying something, whether it's a coaching program, whether it's an investment property, whether it's an experience for your life, but you've gotten so close, but almost hit that buy button, but then you stopped yourself because you're like, is this going to be worth it? Is this going to work out? You're not alone. You're going to love this episode. Or maybe you're someone that you had bought that thing, and maybe you've had experience with buying something in the past and you had like buyer's remorse after you bought it. This is going to be for you. And the reason why this episode is so important is because I cannot tell you guys how many people I have met in my journey that say things like, oh my goodness, I wanted to invest in my family. Well, they didn't say it that way. They're like, oh my goodness, I wanted to travel with my family. And I did not because I thought it was not the best time. And now it's not the best time. And now my kids are in college and it's over, right? Or they're like, man, I took the real estate course when you did, but I did not buy a property because it just didn't feel like the right time. And now prices of things have gone up. Or they're like, Latifat, I've been in your world for a while now, and I wanted to work with you in the money school because I know that I could benefit from the help that you offer women physicians, but I wanted to do it last year, and then it wasn't like the good time. And then next year, and then this year, and now your prices change and all this other stuff, and it's still not a good time. If that's you, you're going to love this episode because what I want you to do with today's episode is I want to help you overcome something that many of us struggle from, which is buyer's remorse. Either because of purchases that we've made in the past, or maybe you're looking at something that looks like a great idea, but you're holding off because you're like, I don't want to have buyer's remorse. And what you're doing is not just not buying that thing, but you've been keeping yourself away from the results that you could get if you actually ended up buying that thing that is maybe what you're meant to buy. And just before I start that, I want to just talk briefly about one of the things that I teach, and I always like, y'all know this already, but I'm not here teaching you theory. I'm not here teaching you things that don't work. I'm teaching you things that has worked for me and many other women physicians, because I am on a mission to help women physicians live the life that they have been called to stop struggling about money, to stop living in fear about money, to stop feeling overwhelmed about money, to stop limiting themselves when it comes to the amount of money and wealth that they can create. And as part of that, when I look at my own finances and my financial life, and I look at the four vehicles, the four things that I have invested in that has literally created the life that I have and will create the life that I will have. There are four things that I've invested in. And number one is me as an asset. I invest in my brain because I think about my brain as an asset, as its own entity that is the source of most of the things that I do. So if I don't invest in my brain, I cannot be on this podcast. I cannot speak on the stages that I speak on. I cannot teach the women that I teach. I cannot be the mom that I am. I cannot do my finances the way that I do. So investing in myself is number one thing that I do. And I invest in myself. When I talk about investment, I'm talking about money, time, and attention in myself through my faith. I invest time in spending time in my Bible, reading, feeding myself, making sure that I'm being renewed so that I'm not living a small life. I'm living the life that I'm meant to live and serve the people that I'm meant to serve. I invest through coaching, coaching myself. I spend money on investing in being in rooms and containers that is healthy for my brain, not so that my brain can go to where it was before, but so that my brain can become who it's meant to be. And that is by investing through coaching, through mentorship and a coach, but also investing in communities that I'm a part of that build my wealth, that increases my ability to live in abundance. I invest in buying and growing assets, like tangible assets, like real estate, businesses. MoneyFit MD is a business. The things that I invest in through the stock market, those are businesses. My stocks company, SoxyDoc, for those of you guys that don't know yet, yes, go to soxydoc.com. Go check out our stocks. It's a play on the word sexy, but it's soxydoc.com. We'll make sure the link is in the show notes for y'all. But those are part of like the tangible assets that I invest in. And also remember that when you're buying in the stock market, you're investing in businesses through that. But also if you're buying, like you're someone that wants to invest in buying a complete business, that is an asset as well. And then the last but not the least thing that I invest in is buying and creating assets. So my podcast is an asset. Our book, Done with Broke, is an asset, right? When I teach a course or teach a class, whether it's free or paid, those are assets. And our ability to create assets, it's part of what keeps our souls alive. It's why you may be super tired, but then when someone says, would you like to go run a community event with me on Sunday where we do like free blood pressure screening events? You're like, yes, I'd love that. Would you like to go educate the public about COVID and how to not die for COVID? Yes, you would do that. Come invest in how your community can screen for colon cancer. You will do that. Even if there's no direct financial gain that comes to you, it's because I believe that we are meant to create. And so when you invest in things that helps you learn the skills, habits, and ability to create assets, it's something that actually builds your wealth. So those are the four things. And number two was, did I say number two? Number two should have been my life as an asset. I think I jumped from number one to number three, but number two is our life as an asset. So we traveling as a family in 2023/2024 and taking up, literally, I quit my job. We traveled around the world. We ended up going to 20 countries, that includes the US, over the span of a year. That was an asset, right? And so when people are telling me things like, oh, I don't want to have buyer's remorse, even though I wanted to travel and I did not, I have not, and I don't think I will be, them investing in their life and their experiences, in my opinion, is an asset class that I want you to invest in. It's part of what I invest in. And it's why I not only have money, but I have wealth in the expensive form of the word. So how do I help people invest better? And how can I help you invest better by not having buyer's remorse? And I will be honest with you guys, I buy things. I buy coaching, I buy mentorship, I buy coaching, I buy communities. I invest through paying for access to those. And I have to tell you that I've never bought any of those that I haven't gotten my return on my investment. I've never paid for any of that and actually regretted paying for it. And part of it is because of the intentionality with which I buy. And I spend a lot of money, because there are two ways to never have buyer's remorse. It's to not buy at all or to buy with intention. Not buying at all, guys, that's what broke people do. That's how poverty mindset messes you up. You think you're smart for not buying, you may be messing yourself up. No, I'm talking to people that want to spend money so that they can get a return on investment. And what I'm going to share with you guys is sort of like 5 principles or 5 strategies or thought processes that helps my people, and now gets to help you so that you don't limit your own growth by either having buyer's remorse or avoiding buyer's remorse and not investing in things that is going to help you build the wealth of your life. Does that make sense? If you're listening on our podcast, make sure you share this episode. Like, make sure you are following by clicking follow at the top, and make sure that you are sharing this episode. And if you've never left us a review before, we want your reviews. It's your way of letting us know that what we're teaching actually helps. And I know there's like thousands of you guys that listen every month, and we have less than 1,000 reviews. So if you haven't left us a review yet, please, 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 please do that today. Pretty please, badass please, boss please. It takes 30 seconds. Just scroll to the bottom of whatever platform you're listening in, leave a 5-star review, and if you can leave a comment, we really, really love it. But if you're watching this now on YouTube, let us know your thoughts as well. Like, comment in the chat box, because I really, really want to make sure that you get the most out of this episode. And if you can share with all those people in your life that can benefit from this, I would love you even more, if that's even possible. So let's go down those 5 points now that this is how I do it. This has helped others, and it can help you too. So number 1 is this: you've already decided that this is, you could benefit from this. This is something that looks attractive. And whether that's because the marketing is attractive to you or the product or the service is attractive to you. One question that I ask myself is this. I mean, because you've already decided that there's a need in your life or a want in your life that can be met by this. A question that I ask myself is this: is 6 months from now, will I be glad that I got the result, or will I wish I had my money back? And the reason why I said get the result is that you're not paying for a product, you're paying for the results. Like when I'm buying a jacket, it's not just because the jacket is a beautiful jacket. It's because I know that it's going to feel good on me, look good on me, and I'm envisioning what my life would look like with this jacket on my body. I'm not buying it from my closet, I'm buying it from my body. The same is true if I'm buying like a course. So for example, there's a mentorship program that I'm a part of right now this year that costs us multiple five figures. And someone that I've been following for years now. And I'm like, okay, I know what they're doing. I see the results. I know the results that I can get. Right. So I'm asking myself, if I get the result that I know I can get from this program 6 months from now, will I be glad I had that result, or will I wish I had the money back? So I will give you the examples for our money school kind of as an example. So the women that we serve in the money school are people that are coming in that are like, I earn an income. I earn a relatively good income, and I want this money to feel like I think it's going to feel like. I don't want to be thinking paycheck monthly paycheck to paycheck. I don't want to be worrying about money. I don't want, like, when I think about my future, I want to know that I have the financial freedom and security to be able to overcome whatever storm comes my way, right? So some of the results that people get when they come into our world is they learn to spend in a way that feels rich to them. So maybe before they joined us, they were worrying about money. They were stressing out about money. Now, after joining us, learning and putting into place the things that we teach, now their money feels like it's going further. They no longer feels like it's struggling like month to month. They no longer feel like it's a struggle to find money to invest, because now they know how to invest first and then spend later, right? They learn how to make their money work for them. So maybe before they joined us, they had some investments, or maybe they didn't have any investments at all, but their clinical income was the primary way that they were earning money. Now they're learning how to invest, and now they're investing so that their money is growing for them. So that whether they're working at the capacity they were working at before, or maybe they've now cut down in their hours, what is happening now is their money is growing for them because they're not needing to exchange money for time only. So another result that our women get is maybe they had a lot of debt before they joined us, or they were feeling burdened by debt. It may not be a lot. It may just be burdened by debt, but now they know how to pay off their debt faster. They also know how to leverage debt and spend money like the wealthy does, so that even before they pay off their debt, they're already having peace of mind. And so what this means is they can spend more time with their loved ones, with themselves, with more peace of mind. They can have more time freedom to do the things that actually matters to them, right? And they can invest more. They're building more passive investment. They're building more active investment. So what that means is they're putting their brain to work, and they're living life outside of their clinical work, where maybe before they thought they did not have time, but now they understand that I actually have time. I'm not just spending time the way that I want to. So they have more time freedom. Right. And so if you're someone like that you're like thinking of joining the money school, for you, what you want to ask yourself is, in 6 months from now, if I have this results, if I do what we're being taught, if I ask for help in the community, if I am letting my time and my money work for me, like, will I be glad that I invested my money, which to join us at this time in 2024 is $10,000 for the entire year, which is kind of crazy, and amazing. Or you can do a monthly plan, which is like $9.97, which you can have automated for you monthly. So if I have the results of peace of mind, if my money is making more money for me, if my net worth is growing because now I know how to invest without hustling, if I'm negotiating better, and now I've earned multiple five figures potentially because of the stuff that I've learned from here. And now I can take that five figure, and now that five figure can be invested and grow for me. Like, in 6 months from now, will I be glad that I spent my $10,000 or $9.97 this way so I can get all of that return on my investment, or will I wish I had my money back? Right? So that is how I think about it when it comes to investment. So for me, the multiple five figure program that I invested in, that's literally the thought process that went into it. And I I bought into the program in December, and I'm glad I did, because I've, gotten my return on investment multiple folds. And I will continue to forever, because the things that I've learned just don't go away because I'm no longer in the program. It stays with me, and it's stuff that I've impacted my spouse, impacted my siblings, impacted my kids. So that's more of the wealthy minded way of looking at how to invest, so that you don't have bias remorse. And if the answer is no, then that may not be the program for you. That may not be the property for you. That may not be the investment vehicle for you. Okay. Number two thing is asking myself, like, what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen is that I may not get the return on my investment. And so what? Right? One thing that comes up is I like this exercise because it's a great way for you to see the places in your life that you need to work on and you need to work with. Many times we don't want to lose money. And I'm not saying go out in the street and like pour your money in the gutter or in the drain or whatever. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that the fear of the worst case scenario can actually prevent you from living the best case scenario. So the worst case scenario is, if I was to go out right now, the worst case scenario is that I could run into an accident, right? I could run into a car accident that could destroy me, God forbid, right? Those are like morbid things that could happen, but that's a risk you're taking anytime you leave your house, right? But you can let that stop you. And if that stops you, then you can stay in your house forever, never mingle with humans. And that becomes a pathological thing, right? Or you can ask yourself how you can change things and how you can affect things so that you can make the chance of a worst case scenario become the best case scenario. So how do I drive more carefully? How am I a careful driver? How am I driving not distracted? My dad used to say this. He said, just pretend like everybody on the street is a crazy person. Yeah, you have control over yourself, right? So asking yourself, like, what's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is you lose the investment that you put in. Now what? And I want you to do that exercise. Not what? I'm going to feel bad. I'm going to feel guilty. I'm not going to be happy about it. And ask yourself, like, are you willing to live with that worst case scenario? Because those things that you uncover it reveals the truth that you have in you, that maybe you're someone that shames yourself. Maybe you're someone that doesn't have enough self-compassion for yourself. So even this exercise, even without buying the program, is great, because now you get to work on self-compassion. Now you get to work on the shaming that you've been doing, because guess what? The fact that you buy or not buy this property or investment does not mean that your shaming goes away. No, you're going to take you and your shame potential mindset somewhere else. And it's going to be limiting you in the other things that you could be doing in your finances, in your world, in your relationships. So I always tell people that money is how we start, but who you're becoming is one of the biggest wins that you get. Because who you're becoming is what you're going to take into other relationship in your life that definitely is going to affect your life in more ways than just finances. So what's the worst case scenario? Answering that question is going to be really helpful for you. For me, when I first started, my worst case scenario is that I would feel bad, that I would say, see, you're bad with investment. Those are all thoughts, right? Or another one is like, that's money you could have spent doing something else. But I love one thing that my husband always says when it comes to investment. Like when I'm hesitating about buying something, my husband says that the money already left you the moment you made the decision. So it doesn't matter if it's in your bank account. It's no longer your money. You might as well just move the money to where you've already decided it was going. It just makes it so much easier for me. It's like she literally goes, you already decided. The moment you decided, the money was already spent. It's still in your account, but it's no longer yours. So just give it to what it is. So if you've already decided to invest in that thing, the money is no longer yours. Just move it, right? It just makes it easier for you to stop standing in between the thing that you already know you're going to do. But for me, doing that exercise helped me uncover the fact that maybe I needed to build my belief on, like, it's possible that I could be good with money, and finding evidence for examples of how I was a good investor. I invested in my medical education. I was the one that made the decision to do it. That's a good investment in my life, because whether I'm practicing clinically or not, that MD degree is pluripotent and can help me make a lot more money in return, positions me to be a person of authority in even non-physician world. The things that may take people 5 years to get to, I can get there in a year, because of the degree and the trust that comes from having that degree that the population has for me, that of course I want to make sure I don't misuse that trust that they have. So that's number two. So number one is you already decided. So asking yourself 6 months from now, will you be glad you spent this way, or will you wish you had the money back? And then number two is, what's the worst case scenario? Is asking yourself and making this assignment a great thing for you, because even without buying or not buying, you've already using that opportunity to work on some of the things that you have, which may be shame, self-judgment, lack of self-compassion, and not having your own back. And then number three is really breaking down and defining the return on investment, right? Because many times what we do is we're focusing on what we're letting go of, but we're not focusing on what we're getting in return. What that means is the best you will ever get is what you have already. Imagine that. The best you could ever get is this. Is that what you want? Because unless you're willing to let go of what you have, you're never going to get what you want. Literally, what you let go of is the price you pay to get what you want. So asking yourself, what do I get when I invest in this? And making sure that you're not scarcity mindseted in terms of just short term only, because you want the short term wins, but you also want the long term wins. So I use the Money Fit MD as an example. And I gave some examples earlier, but there are other returns of investment that you may not be thinking about. So some of those return on investment is, how does this impact my family? So, for example, I'm a mama of three little ladies, and y'all know that I'm all about girls being empowered and women having money, and even boys. I want your boys to be empowered. It's just that our society by default tends to empower them already. So that's why I talk a lot to women, because by default we're not being empowered. So we gotta be empowered. But when I think about the impact that my investment has on my kids, how do my kids benefit from this when I show up differently? Imagine that. When I'm no longer stressed out about money, when I'm not stressed out on vacation, where I'm like pinching pennies and saying, no, 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 we only get the free one, don't get the paid one. Let's even talk about the benefit of a vacation and be present with them. Like, I mean, I remember this moment when we were traveling during our family sabbatical. And we were in Curacao, and my kids were on a swing, and I was just like swinging them. And I had a moment there where I just saw them. I mean, I see my kids and I spend time with my kids, but there's something about spending a non-distracted, non-limited, limitless time just being present with them. And I got to enjoy that. And I was like, man, how beautiful they are. And at that moment, I just had so much gratitude for the fact that I've been gifted to be their mom and to be their guardian and their honestly their coach and their leader through this life, to be able to guide them through the path that God has called them to be. And I just had a lot of like, just in awe at that moment. And I realized that the reason why I could have that moment was because I invested in that experience with them, but also because I had invested in my own brain and the person that I was in. So when you're thinking about the return on investment, make sure that you're thinking about how it affects those that are in proximity to you. So that is my kids. The conversations that I get to teach them when it comes to money creates a financial and money mindset pillar that is on which they're going to grow. I'm at the time of this podcast recording, I'm going to be hosting an event, a small gathering locally, and my kids are going to be working that event. Like, what's the return on investment of the money mindset training and the ability they have now? It's not about just what they earn, but it's the belief that they have that they are people that can earn. That just means that it doesn't matter who the president is, it doesn't matter what the government is, it doesn't matter whether it's a recession or not, they can make money. Like, what's the benefit of that belief that they now get to have, right? I think about the return on investment on my relationship, right? We've been married now for 12 years. Money is like the top three conversations that destroys relationship, or relationships blame for destroying them. The fact that I have the money skills, the ability to think differently about money, has impacted how we talk about money in the family. So that is building our family in a way that no amount of money can do, right? What's the benefit of us not spending money on divorcing, or money not spent on just like overcoming the shame and the guilt of the drama and the fights that we're having when it comes to money, right? So it's not just like what I paid to get here. It's the return on the investment that I'm getting by being here. When I think about the impact that has on my family, like I think about my sister who did not pay for the course that I paid for, but gets a benefit from the knowledge that I got from the things that I paid for. And how now she owns property. She owns investment property, right? In her early 30s. I think she got it when she was like 30 or so, right? She's part of the return on my investment. I think about the experiences, like my dad, for example, when he was alive, there was a trip that we paid for him and my mom to go on. My siblings and I paid for this trip. And I remember a vivid picture that I will never forget. It was the first cruise that he's taken in his life. And I get like emotional when I think about this, but I remember this picture of him touching the ground and taking a picture of him touching the ground. Like, what's the return on the investment that I get? Like, that is part of my return on investment. The ability to let go of money, to spend money on things that are of value to me and those that I love. That's my return on investment. So when I ask myself, am I glad that I spent $18,000 to get the tool set that helped me become the person that I am now today? Heck to the yeah. Because all of that return investment, I'm not continuing to pay that $18,000, but my generation gets to benefit from that money that I invested in, right? And if I had more time, I would go all and on, right? About the benefit. I think about the woman that's like Latifat. My business is growing because I invested in my money and how I think about money. Now I'm no longer undercharging. Now I'm paying my staff. I'm paying them commission for their work. So their staff is happier. They're happier. Like those are the returns. So the question becomes like, are you defining the return on investment clearly enough? Like when I leave my kids, even to go speak, I'm thinking about the return on investment because yes, I'm sacrificing time away from them. But when I think about the return on investment that I'm getting, it's to the infinite for them, but also for the life and the people that I'm called to serve. So I hope that helps you. The lack of defining of your return on investment clearly is part of why you're struggling to let go of money. And that's why you're holding on to the current life you probably have right now instead of the life that you could be having. And then number 4 is asking yourself, like, time is important. And this one comes into play because a lot of the excuses that we will give is, I don't have the time, right? Because nobody has the time. I don't too. But it's just a question of like, number 1 is objectively speaking, will you spend the time to do the work? Because if you're not going to spend the time, then it may not be the right time for you to do that investment. But what I find is that many times we have a lot of like limiting beliefs and stories we tell ourselves about time. We say that I don't have time, I don't have time. When the truth may not be that you don't have time, it may just be that you're afraid, right? And so being honest with yourself, be completely honest that maybe the problem is that you don't have time. It's not that you don't have time, but it's like you have fear, right? Look at how much time you're spending on social media, how much time you're spending on Netflix. And yes, those create relief and escape for you. But would you rather get the escape or would you rather get the life you want? Because the life you want is the escape from the life you have. But do you want more of like a short-term escape, like, oh, now I'm escaping watching Netflix all day and feeling better? Or do I want my life that I'm going to get to be the escape that I actually get that I want? Right? Because maybe the timing is not the problem. Maybe the limiting beliefs, the excuses you're giving, and the fear is the problem. But if you're being very, very honest and you're like, Latifat, there's no way that maybe this is not the right time. And like literally, like I already know what I'm gonna sign up for in December, because I sign up for my programs in December for the next year because, might as well get the tax deduction this year. Right. So I already know what like I'm looking at for next year that I'm going to be investing in my brain and the community, the mentorship and all that stuff that I'm going to be investing in. I already know that. So I'm paying for that this year. And in fact, if you're someone that's like thinking about the money school and you want to do that, let me know. We're happy to let you pay this year, even if you want your start date to be in January. Let us know. We're happy to help you with that. And the way you do is just send an email to me, Dr. Latifat at moneyfitmd.com, or just send me a message on Facebook or on Instagram. DM me and we're happy to serve you that way so that you can potentially get the deduction this year and put into place the action. Like let it kickstart next year, but you're paying in an advance of time. I do that as well. And make sure you talk to your CPA. This is not tax advice, blah, 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 all that good stuff. But there's something that I do myself is I pay in advance and then I just get started in January. That way it becomes an expense for this year. And that helps me a little bit when it comes to my tax taxation and stuff. Okay. So the timing is, just be honest with yourself. If the time does not work, maybe the time does not work, but making sure that that is not a belief, because that's something that stands in between people investing in what is actually going to serve them. And then the last but not the least is, whose voice is it? Right? One of my staff members had told me that she wanted to buy a bigger property. And she said, well, people say that buying a property, I have 2 kids, we have 3 bedrooms, and we want more space. And I challenged that thought. I'm like, do you really need more space, or you just want more space? And whose voice is that? And it's culture's voice. And the unfortunate thing is, for the most part, culture is broke. Culture is living paycheck to paycheck. Culture is stuck, lives the 8 to 5 life, and says, see, it's a case of a Monday. I hate Mondays, but I don't have a choice. It's Friday. Hallelujah. TGIF. I cannot wait for a weekend because finally I get a break. And, all the break is on Saturday because Sunday is for prepping for Monday. And we just don't have a life as a culture. So making sure you're asking yourself, whose voice is it, right? You don't want to take advice from someone that you would not exchange life or positions with for like a day. So if the advice you're leaving, if the things you're investing on is based on the advice and teachings of broke people, you may want to think twice about that, right? If the advice you're getting is looking at the people that you admire, that are living a life of integrity and growth and imperfection, but living the life that you want, and you now have seen that they invest as part of their success rules, and you want to, but you're feeling stuck in that analysis paralysis of like, I don't want to have bias remorse, just ask yourself, what will they do? Do what they do, and you'll get the results that they get. I do that till today. But if you're asking yourself, like, what will the person that taught you that you should not be investing in yourself, that is too expensive, you should not do that. If you're listening to them, do you want, like, you're going to create the results that they have created? And if that's what you want, then great. But if that's not what you want, then you have to make sure you're asking yourself, whose voice is it anyway? So I hope this has been helpful for you. This is literally what I go through when I'm investing. And investing could be childcare, it could be babysitting, it could be someone to come clean my house. Whose voice is it? Is it culture that said a woman should do it all, should never get help, should never ask for help? Right? You get to ask yourself those questions, and you get to define, because at the end of the day, the result you get is going to be dependent on you. I hope this has been helpful for you. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being part of my world. I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye.